Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cold Fiction. We are going to be talking about Fantastic Four today. We went and saw the movie. You'll notice Bueller is not here because he hasn't seen the movie yet. So we told him to get the hell out. So we're just gonna. This will be a fairly short episode today. We're gonna talk a little bit about Fantastic Four. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll talk about some other stuff too. But let's kick it off with Eric. I think out of the four of us, he was the one who was most excited to see the movie.
No, I was the
Uh,
least excited to see the movie.
Maybe he okay. Maybe I didn't fully understand. We'll have him talk about why he was the least excited, but then also whether or not he liked it. Hit it up, sir.
Yeah, so I was the least excited because of the bullshit that they did with the female Silver Surfer.
Silver Surfer.
I
Yeah.
was just kind of like, here we go again, doing all that nonsense. Um, that being said, I liked it. Um, it was certainly better than I thought it was going to be. It was different than a lot of you know, the the sites that warn you about all the nonsense going on in Hollywood would have you believe. They were kind of saying like, "Oh, Sue's gonna save the day, and it's gonna be all her, and the boys are gonna be sitting there twiddling their thumbs, and there's nothing they can do about it." And it wasn't like that at all. It was very like family oriented. Sue was not a Mary Sue. I thought she was like a feminine strong character that pushed back against Reed when Reed's almost like a Sheldon Cooper. Like in
Hmm.
his eyes, more information is always good, but she's got to kind of go, yeah, yeah, but people, have emotions too. You can't just say that and expect everybody to be okay with this or that or whatever. So I thought she was a good yin to his yang. Um, Johnny was extremely useful. If you watch it, he was part of what helped save the day. The Thing was great. Um, I didn't really have a lot to say other than it was probably just safe. It was just safe. Um, and for some people for you guys it might have been boring because of that. But I don't know. I think it's I don't know. Is it a good start in the right direction? I wasn't inundated with a message. I didn't feel like they were trying to beat me over the head with anything, but it was pretty safe,
Hmm.
you know.
All right. Yeah. Fair enough. Alex, what was your take on Fantastic Four?
So, I mean, just to preface it, I was I said this way back when the other four Fantastic Four movies came out. At the end of the day, as much as I like, comic book movies and everything, Fantastic Four is just never going to resonate with me simply because I was never really into the characters. I was
Right.
never really into Galactus and Silver Surfer. To me, they're just kind of boring. And so the stuff like X-Men or Daredevil or Punisher, Spider-Man always hit on a level for me that something like the Fantastic Four just doesn't, you know? And so the movie really is about as good as it could be for me, Like if it was spectacularly great somehow, maybe I'd really like it. But at the
Sure.
end of the day, if you wanted to see a Fantastic Four movie, like a faithful, good Fantastic Four movie, I think this is really what you've been waiting for the
Hmm.
most part. So I mean, I agree with a lot of what Eric said. It was fine, and it did everything fine. It just didn't take any risks or anything and played it kind of safe, which is, I mean, fine at this point because it's like,
Right.
it's just like if you just make a decent movie, good. That's all we can hope for at this point. But for me personally, I'm not into Galactus. I'm not into Silver Surfer. I'm not into the Fantastic Four.
Son of
So
a
it's just,
bitch.
yeah, they're just boring to me. And it's like the movie didn't really. One of the reasons I've always felt Galactic was kind of boring is just because he just doesn't do anything. It's like, oh, I eat planets, okay, but it's sort of like I know nothing about him or anything, and the
Hmm.
motivations or anything. It's just kind of a, in a way, I almost understand why they made him a cloud or whatever it was in the 2005
Right.
movie,
Right.
simply because when you make him like a giant humanoid out in space, eating planets, it's just sort of like for me, it just doesn't resonate with me at all. So as far as the movie goes, yeah, if you're into Fantastic Four, this is going to be all for you. For me personally, I was never into Fantastic Four. So I can't really say that I enjoyed it all that much, but I enjoyed it about as much as I could, simply because I'm not going to be into it. But I do think, it's like when Eric was saying, step in the right direction and anything. I think we just gotta all probably accept the fact that superhero movies and comic book movies are probably just on the downturn in general.
Mm.
We're looking at like 25 years now since since Spider-Man, wasn't it like 2000, 2001? I mean,
When
things are
the first Spider-Man
cyclical.
came out,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
2002, yeah.
yeah, they're cyclical, it's
Well,
like we're not,
X-Men was 2000, and then everybody will be in the
Yeah.
if people start watching this, they'll be in the comments saying Blade was like 98.
Sure,
So
sure,
right,
yeah.
right.
Blade,
But it's,
Blade
it's
2 was
just,
2000.
Blade 2 is
Yeah.
so good, so good.
it's just a matter of, they're not gonna reach the height they did with phase one, I don't think, ever again. And I don't think that's a bad thing. There was lightning in a bottle for like 12 years,
Right.
I mean, that was, an incredible accomplishment they made over a series of movies, and it's just not gonna happen again. It doesn't mean it can't be enjoyable, right? But I think the comparison we should be making is not going to be to, oh, is it as good as, the phase one movies? Nothing's gonna be that good anymore, right? Just
Mm.
not. So, but as far as whatever they're gonna do now, this was fine, it was a step in the right direction, but I'd kind of like to see them, because the budgets are not gonna, they should probably lower the budget for things, because the box
Yes,
office is not going to be what it was. They're not gonna be hitting
yes,
billion-dollar movies anymore. Just like, unless something is really, really great. Cause like
right.
this one's gonna tap out, I think, probably worldwide. I don't know, Eric would know better than me, but it kind of crashed in the second week. And it's just
Right.
sort of like, so
Well,
it's just,
that's another part of it too. Like, I was talking to my son because he enjoyed the movie too, and he was like, what's one of the reasons why, why did the box office crash? And I have to say, um, it's because it actually had competition in its second week, which is not something that would have happened 5 years ago against Marvel. There's
Right.
no way somebody would have put up a movie against Marvel, like a major summer tentpole Marvel movie in its second weekend.
what came out the second week?
There, it was Naked Gun and something else.
Mm.
Naked. Oh, and Bad Guys 2, the animated movie.
Right.
So,
Okay.
that sucked up $40 million, right? So if you just think, well, as the number one movie, out of that $40 million, maybe Fantastic Four earns a third of that, you know?
Right.
So now you're talking about 12 to 14 million dollars more. Now all of a sudden their second week drop isn't 67%, it's like 54% or
Mm.
something like that, right? That's more in line. But it also goes to show that other studios aren't maybe as afraid of
Right.
Marvel as they used to be.
Right.
Yeah, with
So,
good reason.
yeah, with good reason. So, I mean, it was still the number one movie, but those other movies thought that they could survive or make, the money that they needed to make, even going against a Marvel movie in its second weekend. Man, that's not something that would have happened pre-COVID,
Sure.
What
or
do you know what
pre-Endgame,
offhand
whatever.
what the lowest grossing Marvel movie is altogether?
Oh, it's almost without question, it's the Marvels.
Mm.
Okay.
Right.
And I think Marvels, I want to say it was like 206 worldwide,
Mm.
Okay.
which is just
Ouch.
Well, that was kind of a weird question then. What would be the lowest box office movie that would not be considered a flop?
now, okay, that wouldn't be considered a flop. And you're talking about with the MCU?
Yeah.
I think it would be something like you'd have to go into phase one, like the first Thor or the first
Right.
Captain America, because you're talking about like high 300 million to low 400 million. You're talking about like 375 to 420, right?
Mhm.
But also they weren't on $180 million budgets,
Mhm.
right? They weren't
Right.
sticking $180 million into what's it called? Like, so if I look up, I'm gonna go on to IMDb right now, and I'm gonna look up Captain America: First Avenger. Captain America: First Avenger. Here it is. It's box office. was 370, so I said 375. Okay, so estimated with marketing 140,
Hmm.
right?
So does
Right.
that mean the Fantastic Four is gonna make less than Thor did?
No, I think the Fantastic Four is already over. Well, it depends on what their budget is, right?
Hmm.
Because
Exactly.
they're already over 400 million right
But
now.
that was a $250 movie, right?
Right, right. So and they're close to 400 million. They're like 385. So
Right.
fantastic. Let's see. I'm gonna go to Fantastic Four First Steps and see if their budget is on here. Because you're right. I mean, that makes a huge monster difference. Budget 200 million.
Hmm.
Right. So that's a big deal. And then
Yep.
Thor, regular Thor, Mr. Regular Thor was 150 budget, which I actually think is that's pretty high. That's more than I would have thought. And a 449, 450 overall haul. So
Hmm.
I would say that those are some of the smaller ones. I'd have to go back and see what like Ant-Man did, like the first
Right.
Ant-Man,
Sure.
but that's about it. But those weren't
So
flops. Yeah, so those weren't flops. They still probably made, after everything's said and done, 50 to $100 million
Yeah.
profit, you
sure.
know.
Jubal, though, what did you think?
Okay, so a Fantastic Four. Here's my thing. I've um full disclosure, I fell asleep like 3 times watching this movie, right? Uh and when we came out of the theater, I said I didn't like it. Um and maybe, maybe that's true. Maybe I didn't love it. But I don't think it's fair for me to say that it was a bad movie, right? I think part of what happened was I was expecting, like, there was a lot of hoopla around this movie. There was a lot of, like, people were like, "This is it. It's the reemergence. It's the recapturing of the comic book genre." And I'm with Eric. Like, I didn't really feel that from this movie. I feel like it made a lot of really safe choices. There was some tropes in there that you saw coming. There were things that you knew was going to happen. Like the part where Galactus picks up Mr. Fantastic and he's stretching him. And he's like, "Oh, you're Mr. Fantastic," or whatever. What he's not going to like break Mr. Fantastic in half. You know what I mean? And his guts spill out all over the streets of New York. No, that's not what's going to happen, right? Somebody's going to throw a frisbee at him and get his attention, and that's what happened, right? So there are certain things that are like, okay, you knew that was going to happen. You knew there was going to be something like that in the movie. But even with that, even with the slightly tropey stuff, I think it was a good Saturday afternoon popcorn flick, right? If you're just in the mood for like a comic booky action flick and you're not real particular about anything, see, I wanted to see Winter Soldier again. I wanted to see
Right.
Civil War again, right?
And I don't know if that's happening
And I
again.
think what
It's not gonna
Alex
happen with Fantastic Four.
Right. What Alex is saying is that that's just never going to happen again. We're just never going to get Winter Soldier again. And
I
that
think
makes
we could,
me
it would just have to be with the right property. I don't think Fantastic Four and Galactic
right.
can do something like
Right.
that.
Right. So I went in, my expectations were too high. That was my problem, right? Other than the falling asleep thing, which I blame on the beers that we had before we went in. But that said, even though I fell asleep 3 times, I didn't miss anything, if you know what I mean. But again, that said, I will say that this was a good movie. It was a good popcorn comic book action movie. I'm not going to say that it was a bad movie because it wasn't a bad movie. It was well shot, it was well directed, it was well performed. The writing was as good as you can hope for like a run of the mill comic book flick. Don't expect to get your socks blown off or anything like that, but it was good. It was good enough for what
Yeah,
it was.
I think there is only so much you can do when your main antagonist is 40 stories tall.
And so that's the other thing that I wanted
And eats
to.
planets.
Yeah, that's the other
Right.
thing that I wanted to talk about was like, and this is sort of a problem with Superman movies too, is
Right.
that when you have just these overwhelming cosmic threats.
Right.
It's almost like the more threatening the villain is, the less suspense there is. Because here's what I know. What I know is not going to happen: that Galactus eats Earth,
Mhm.
right, and everybody dies. I know that's not how the movie is going to end, right?
Right. I think that that's one of the things that makes, in my opinion, I think Infinity War is the best MCU movie.
Exactly. You had this overwhelming cosmic threat, but the villain wins, right? And
Right.
that was like nobody saw that coming. That was so unexpected, and obviously opened the door to Endgame. But in a situation like this, you knew that Galactus was going to lose, and it's almost like when you have these threats that are just so overpowered and ridiculous that it's just like you're just going through the motions at that point, right? And this is something Alex and I were talking about too. It's like this is maybe part of the reason why Daredevil is such a great show, is that the stakes are not so ridiculously high,
Hmm.
right? They're not like this overwhelming earth destruction threat. It's like street level stuff, and that means that you have a lot more room to play with outcomes. You know how this movie's going to end, and that's sort of the problem walking into it. But even that said, it's fun. You know, it's as hokey as it needs to be, and it's as goofy as it needs to be in some places. But I'll give it a C plus because I think everybody did a really good job on it. And I
But
really,
I can also commend them for making an actual honest effort to make, the best like Fantastic Four movie they could with Galactus and Shallaball instead of Norrin
right,
Radd, which is
right, which
yeah.
was that was a
Honestly,
mistake.
I
But
was telling Eric too. It's sort of like there were a couple moments in the movie where I'm like, that could have been like really tense, suspenseful movie if you got like Norrin Radd and somebody with the right voice for it. Because I like that actress. I forget her name. The girl from Ozarks and everything. But when she's talking about like your world has been chosen, and just she's not delivering the line in a way
right,
that's making me in any way suspenseful. And it's like when Johnny grabs the board and she just kind of peers over and just sort of like if that was somebody else with like the right voice, for somebody like Lance Reddick, rest in peace. But somebody with like that a voice, that kind of gravitas to it, that would just be like, that
mm,
could have been suspenseful, and it just wasn't,
right,
So
right.
yeah,
But for what it was, if you're a Fantastic Four fan, you're going to dig it.
yeah, absolutely.
If you're a comic book fan in general, you're going to have a good time watching it. Get a bucket of popcorn and enjoy it. Go to a matinee. But if it's not your thing, then it's probably not going to be something that you really care about. That's basically all I have to say about it. But I wanted to ask Eric, because this is something he would know. What is the next Marvel property that's coming out? Do you know?
Oh, well, right now, I believe there is an uh animated show on Disney Plus called Eyes of Wakanda,
Right.
and then
What's the next movie?
I'm not sure what the next movie is. Eyes
I'm
of
not sure. The
Wakanda.
next new movie might be Doomsday.
Okay. All right. So the Eyes of Wakanda is kind of like the Tales of the Jedi shorts,
Yeah, yeah, I think
right?
so.
So those are really cool, by the way. I've just throwing this out there. Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, I think, and then Tales of
Yeah,
the
the
Underworld.
Underworld.
Yeah, those were pretty cool series. You can get those on Disney Plus. They just like little short stories that take place in the Star Wars universe. I enjoyed all of those. Um, anyway, that's pretty much all we've got for today, guys. Next week we're going to be talking about some really interesting stuff, though. So check in, and we'll talk to you later.